Hello, and welcome to the first edition of the Tony O'Hagan Politics Podcast. A bit of a grand title, but basically, what I'm trying to do here is explore my interest in politics, and hopefully, if you're viewing this, you may have a bit of an interest in politics, or you might be quite new to politics and would like to understand some of the workings of the British House of Commons and all the things that go on in Westminster. I do have a deep interest in politics. Some people would describe me as an anorak when it comes to politics. I prefer political junkie, and which I've just always liked politics. I've always enjoyed the what's going on in Westminster and things like that. And I do have political persuasions, but I'm going to try and keep those at bay for the moment. As we get to know each other, I might sort of leak one or two of my thoughts out to you. But for the moment, I don't want to be sat here, lecturing you on why you should think this. That's not the idea behind this. It's all to do with, I suppose, education, really. I like education. I like imparting knowledge, and hopefully those people who tune in will learn something. Every day is a school day, isn't it? So to prove to you that I was really at my interest in politics, tonight I was watching the Parliament channel. And so while everyone else was catching up on the soaps or watching the films, there was me sat there watching the Parliament channel. And I was struck because there were a number of what's known as maiden speeches. And I thought I'd explain a little bit about maiden speeches as my first topic for you. So basically, a maiden speech is made by a brand new MP. You can't have been an MP, say, 10 years ago and got back into Parliament and then do a maiden speech. No, you have to be, it's your first speech within Parliament. And there are a couple of rules. So, first of all, you cannot be interrupted, or you shouldn't be interrupted. So, you've got to be listened to in relative silence. And for most of those MPs, that will be the last time they are listened to in silence or not interrupted. The second thing, your speech should not be controversial or overtly political. Now, some of the MPs slightly get round that, but generally most of them keep to that. Thirdly, you're supposed to say something nice about your political opponent who you've just beaten in the election. And to be honest with you, most of the MPs do stick to that, and they are quite nice about their predecessor, or say something nice and wish them well. There is the odd MP who has had such a bad relationship with their opponent that it's very, very difficult for them to say anything remotely nice about them. I'm not going to name names, but I do know a few speeches, not necessarily in this Parliament as yet, but over the years, where people have, barely been able to mention the other person's name. But generally, they do give a nice speech. And then possibly the most amusing part of the speech is that they have to talk about their constituency. Now, it's very much a bit like they're all estate agents, because they all claim to have the most wonderful constituency in the country. They all lay claim to it, that they've all got wonderful constituencies. So, and they like to talk about what different aspects of the constituency. And a running joke is that you should try and mention your local newspaper. And if you mention your local newspaper as a new MP, the hope is then that your local newspaper will always say nice things about you if they're ever reporting, because they obviously like to get plugged themselves. So so there was some very interesting speeches. Some people are quite serious. Some people are quite amusing. I noticed Nick Timothy spoke. Funny enough, he was one of the Downing Street staff when Theresa May was basically did the 2017 election, which pretty much failed miserably, and he had to go along with his compatriot. And but anyway, he basically was elected to Parliament in Matt Hancock's old constituency, and I think it's either South or Norfolk. So that was interesting, Nobody mentioned anything about his shenanigans in 2017 as yet, but I'm sure he'll get more stick as time goes on. Possibly it was the most emotional speech, and I'm just going to find the person's name. Let me just get their name. Yes, Alex Easton, and he is an independent MP for North Down in Northern Ireland, and he gave the usual speech. He thanked his predecessor. He talked about his constituency, but it was the last 2 minutes of his speech that were very emotional for him and emotional to listen to, because unfortunately his parents were in a house fire the previous year in 2023, and they succumbed to their injuries. And obviously he wanted to speak about how proud he was that he'd been made an MP after 4 times. It was his 4th attempt to become an MP, and how he hoped his father would be proud of him and his mother would be proud. And it was just, a lot of people, a lot of criticisms of MPs and a lot of criticisms of different things, but at the end of the day, they are human beings, and it was quite a human moment, really, not just for him, obviously, because it was very emotional for him, but it was also emotional in the chamber for others to listen to. And obviously, one of the other conventions of the chamber is that the next person who speaks, whether they're doing a maiden speech or they're not, they always sort of compliment the person who has just spoken. And the next MP who spoke was the MP for Blackpool North, and he said, be assured your parents will be very, very proud of you, So, yeah, it was quite a human moment, that. So that's basically the situation. Once they've done their maiden speech, it's like, whew, they're over and done with. Now they can get into the swing of it. Some people don't make the maiden speech for months, I think I'm right in thinking that Margaret Thatcher, it was about a year before she actually made her maiden speech. I might have to check that and tell you whether I was right in the next edition. But yeah, and like my MP is I got a new MP. I live in Stratford-on-Avon constituency, so we've actually got a Liberal Democrat, Manuela. Her name is. I'm not going to say her surname at the moment because it's Italian and I might get it wrong. But her name's Manuela, and she hasn't made a maiden speech as yet, but I'm sure she will eventually. So I shall be looking forward to seeing what she has to say about a predecessor, who was Nadeem Zahawi, who was an interesting character at the best of times. And yes, it will be interesting to see, what she says about him. But obviously she's got, Stratford-on-Avon is obviously you've got Shakespeare, you've got, lovely air. It is quite a nice area, Stratford-on-Avon. So, yeah, I'm sure she'll be telling everybody how wonderful Stratford-on-Avon is. So that's it, really. That's all you needed to know, or a little potted history of maiden speeches. I won't go on past that because I'll try and stop, for 10 minutes. But yes, if there's anything in particular you'd like to know about Parliament, I'm happy to sort of tailor future editions that can talk about something. There's lots of conventions, there's lots of different things going on. If you want to know why, the door slammed in the face of Black Rod, when it was the King's Speech, you just have to say, I'm happy to tell you about it. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this first edition. Please like and subscribe if you did. And the likelihood is I'm probably been speaking to nobody. And that might be the case for the first 6 months. But we'll carry on and see how things go. So you take care, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll speak to you very soon. All the best. Bye.